Hey everyone, Jan here, codingwithjan.com. So today, special video, we are talking to a founder who I think runs one of the most interesting and most unique businesses in the entire Shopify space. So I was super excited for this interview and I truly hope you enjoyed as well. And then let's dive right in. All right, Jan. So the first time we two spoke was on a call in 2021. Back then, you told me that you would raise $10 million to acquire several Shopify apps. And yeah, to be fully honest, with my limiting perspective back then, I couldn't fully believe that. And yeah, now fast forward to 2025, you own and operate more than 50 apps at this point. You've raised a lot more than that. And I think just a few weeks ago, you've actually completed another successful series, raising another 60 million. Wild. So, to someone new who never heard of you or your company, how do you introduce yourself or how do you even explain what ShopCircle does?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, Ian, thank you so much for having me. Very, very exciting to be on this podcast. I have listened this podcast quite frequently. I think you're doing an excellent job for a long time now. I think from since 2021, something like that. So, congrats, first of all. Very excited to be here. Yeah, definitely. A few things went right since last time we spoke as well. Well, a few years back when we were at the beginning of our journey. But first and foremost, what's ShopCircle? ShopCircle is a leading operator of software. What we do is that we are quite good at buying, building, and scaling up apps software with a very specific, narrow focus, and at least that has been, our focus for now in the e-commerce space, and even more vertically, our starting point has really been the Shopify ecosystem. So if you fast forward ShopCircle by 4 years since last time it's the first time, sorry, we spoke, obviously we were quite successful in bringing together a comprehensive suite of apps in the Shopify space and now beyond as well, FYI, the Shopify space, with, yes, a leading suite of approximately 40 category defining apps and solution in the Shopify space. We have this model which focuses a lot, as you correctly spotted, in the acquisition side. So we believe we are among the best in identifying great founders, great apps, great solution that fits within our existing portfolio, and then really bring them to the next phase of growth and develop, expand them further, improve them, making them more exciting for the merchants.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, super interesting. I actually think you run one of the most interesting businesses in the Shopify space. I told you that before. But yeah, tell me, how did you even come up with the idea? Like, how did you even know Shopify apps were a thing to begin with?
Yeah, sure. My background is in the e-commerce operational space. So I basically, before co-founding ShopCircle, I was at Amazon. During my time at Amazon, I was lucky enough to work with some fantastic brands, like, or like basically conglomerates of brands as well, like P&G, S. Johnson, like Heineken, really some of the top brands out there that they taught me a lot. They taught me a lot around what does mean for them to operate these brands, grow these brands, and ultimately the conversation kind of naturally also developed into and entailed some conversation around the direct-to-consumer, the D2C channel as well, because there was, and obviously for most of them, there is still a significant investment into that channel, not only on the marketplace side. And so, by talking to these guys, there was a clear understanding from my end that there were a few opportunities in the Shopify space to really build and to smoothen and improve the ways in which some of these brand managers that were with their tech team that were managing some of their direct-to-consumer channels. And they start mentioning and really remember some conversation around, yeah, we do have 20 apps in the App Store, in my Shopify store. We struggle a lot to understand who are the best apps out there? Why do we need that app? Why don't we need that app? Oh, that app is bringing down my store speed. Is long story short, it was quite insightful conversation for me to realize there was a pain point for the brand side to really figure out how to select and pick up the right tech stack for them in the Shopify space. And randomly enough as well, myself and my co-founder also had a friend and a contact that we were involving him for potential tech role, so as a founder who basically at some point in his life basically sold an app, right? Built and sold an app. So we put kind of these dots together. There was also a macro trend, you might recall, Ian, around some companies aggregating brands, which was also like, quite booming back then. We said, look, here there are some good, strong points that we could probably link all together. There is obviously Shopify growing significantly. There is a pain point for brands to pick up their tech stack. There is a model, which is the aggregation model, which we did not obviously invent. There are a lot of multi-billion companies aggregating software, Constellation, Visma, and so on and so forth. So by linking all these three dots, we kicked off and we actually co-founded Shop Circle.
Yes, that's amazing. And that's also what I like about the business. It's like a creative approach to the Shopify system because you combine the MMA space with Shopify apps and development. And it's kind of unique, honestly. And okay, so what does your team look like at this point? I mean, I think it's over 100 people. I'm not exactly sure. You got to tell me.
Way more. Yeah, but a few more. We are more than 250 people. We are getting to the 300 mark. Yeah, we're moving fast. And obviously also this M&A angle does help, help does definitely contribute to the expansion of the team. So yeah, we are again 250 people. Half of them are developers. Obviously, we need them in order. Then we obviously partner with 100 developers. Really are the core of our business model. Needless to say, they are obviously the key contributor to our growth and expansion to make our apps better, our products better, more merchants friendly, and more attractive, and making sure that there are no issues and we keep meeting all the Shopify requirements and really being, I think we have very clear, alignments with our developers that ultimately we're investing on them and we are making sure that they can keep learning and ultimately being at the forefront of Shopify innovation. So this is the largest team, and then obviously we do have the remaining team members are split between product managers, marketing, operations, which include obviously HR, finance, and we do obviously have, which is kind of different versus other businesses. Obviously, are quite kind of still nimble but crucial M&A team, which exactly support our M&A efforts.
Okay, got it. Makes sense. And support team as well? Probably.
Support team. Sorry, yeah, for sure, of course, yeah. Support, we do have it in-house as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that gives a pretty good overview of your own business. One last question: the headline that I saw with another 60 million raised, the last successful series. What are you going to use that money for? Any plans? Any goals? Give us an outlook.
Sure. Yeah. So that's quite interesting. Again, we do love M&A. That's something that we have never been shy about, and I think we have been proven to be good at doing that, right? At spotting, incorporating, integrating, and growing apps. And also because our whole thesis is that. Look, there are incredible founders and incredible entrepreneurs that went through, obviously, all the challenges to get to this product market fit. And we have enormous respect for what they have built. And we are we humbly believe that we can, together with them, or sometimes after them, but still keeping the legacy very, very alive, we keep, again, growing these products and bring them to their really next phase of growth. So M&A, we like it. So to answer your question, a significant portion of that funding will be dedicated and will be used to keep acquiring incredible category winning and category defining software. And that's will remain a core part. And then also we also want to continue making sure, obviously, again, that our existing product, existing suite keep developing in the right direction, right? We have exciting AI projects as well. Of course, AI buzzword, we took a very, very practical approach toward AI. And I think, and again, maybe that's something that we can deep dive a little bit maybe later on, but there is so much also excitement and also kind of effective and very practical implementation of AI within the apps to improve analytics, to improve onboarding processes that we want to further invest and develop, because we just believe we can basically build better experiences for merchants through some of these existing technologies.
Yes, that's amazing. And it's also cool because now you have all these different apps. So if you develop one feature, you can kind of share it across the shared resources. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, but yeah, that gives a pretty good overview of your own business, which I think is super interesting. And the next topic that I had on my list is kind of this whole app acquisition topic, because I mean, you're an expert, you have more insights than anyone else here. When acquiring new apps, and I'm sure this has changed over the years as well, but what are you looking for specifically? Do you look for a specific size, specific categories, tech stack, reputation? Like, what is it that you're looking for?
Yeah. And, as you correctly spotted and mentioned, obviously our kind of acquisition targets kind of also evolved and changed with the growth of our products and of our company. Basically, if you would ask me the same question, obviously 4 years ago when we were just starting, obviously the kind of the sweet spot, the type of companies that we were looking to acquire was very different to what we are looking now. But said that, the kind of must have, or at least the elements that we are really really keen to get and to understand whenever we are exploring an acquisition are, I would say, three. First of all, we really truly do like apps software with category defining proposition. So we do like apps that have proven consistently and for a long time to be the best, or literally among the best, in doing and in meeting and answering specific merchants' needs.
Got it.
We believe that there are a few app founders that really nailed it, and they've really built best-in-class solutions in their respective category, subcategory niches. Because as we know, obviously the Shopify app space is quite like very very specific. But definitely there is in each of this area we keep spotting winners or apps that have the potential of really being the winners. That's something that really excites us. So obviously we do want to see this. We want merchants to consider these apps as again the best in class in their respective categories. Second part, obviously we do like growth. So we do like when we see a level of growth over the past years, which again, in most of the cases means and is correlated to they're winning that market, hence, and they're winning that niche. So they keep expanding in that niche and taking on more of the competitors' also market share. And so that's something that we do obviously are interested in looking. So growth, I mean MRR growth, recurring revenue growth. The third element, which is also very, very important, is that we do like, and again, these are all connected in a way, we do like sticky software, but not because it's just the retention is just the metric that we should be taking care of, because it again prove the value that the products represents for the merchants and for the brands, right? So we do like, and obviously we are aware, in particular in the Shopify space, and then as also outside the Shopify space, we are aware of what is benchmarks in terms of churn, retention, NRR, etc. So we are aware, obviously, of embedded kind of targets and benchmarks in the space. We do like and stress in finding as well apps that have an acceptable level of churn and of retention, obviously, for us. Last but not least, which tends to be kind of a fil rouge across most of the acquisition that we do, a level of profitability, obviously, that is acceptable for us, which means in most of the cases that are bootstrapped or not particularly, or companies apps that didn't raise significant amount of capital, which is a consequence in most of the cases means they're also profitable.
Okay, yeah, I think that all makes sense. I mean, you also want to mitigate risk on your end, so profitability, little churn, growth over time. I mean, that this all seems to make intrinsic sense. Awesome. And my next question would have been, are you still actively looking to acquire apps? But you've already answered that also.
100%, yeah. We are just to,
Yes.
of course, yeah, we are absolutely on a hunt for great products, great software. As I mentioned, we love Shopify ecosystem. Why we love Shopify ecosystem? Because ultimately, first, we keep seeing growth. We keep seeing new apps that are scaling up in their rankings, and so great founders that are showing that you can build obviously again still you can build great products. There are new categories, and I'm sure, Jan, that they're also seeing how Shopify is also putting much more focus on apps that have some level obviously of AI implemented within the apps. Again, that's something that we are particularly interested in looking at. Overall, it's a space that is growing, so the players in that category still are growing. became
Yeah.
more competitive. Of course, we are very, obviously, all of us work in the Shopify space. We are very aware of the competition coming up, but we are still seeing significant traction. Said that, we are
Yeah.
also interested and keen to talk to founders that who are building products even outside the Shopify space, more platform agnostic solution. One of our latest acquisition, AI, was really a solution in the guided selling space, which who has a presence in the app space, in the Shopify app space, but also offers to more mid-market brands outside the Shopify solution. So we're also keep looking and also excited to look outside the just the narrow Shopify space.
Okay, yes, that makes sense. And for me, I mean, as a beginner in the MMA space, I don't have much experience with that. How long does it even take to acquire an app from start to finish? Let's say we meet today, I have a good app, and I approach you, hey, Jan, you want to buy my app? Like, how long is the review process going to take, diligence, the
Look,
contracts? Yeah.
yeah, look, Jan, the speed is something that we believe is important. Why that? Because we don't want to leave founders kept in a kind of a limbo that they don't know what's going on, right? Founders need clarity, and so sometimes the needs obviously tough response, which might also mean not positive, but we try to run a very transparent, so we're not playing cards. We are and fast process, obviously in line with running a proper M&A process, which obviously in particular now that we are looking at more larger acquisition, obviously we need to make sure that obviously our requirements are met and we do things properly, which protects not just obviously Shop Circle, but ultimately also does protect the seller, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the company that is selling, the company that is selling to us. So, and also it does depend based on the complexity of each transaction. There is not a transaction similar to another. In most of the cases, also some of the delays do not necessarily come from Shop Circle, but do also come from founders that maybe at some point they might want to slow down a little bit the process, etc. Our interests are to be very clear since the beginning on how the process look like. So we share very clearly timelines that we're working against, and we try to stick to this obviously as much as possible. If there are hiccups, being vocal in obviously mentioning them. So it's really a bit tricky for me to give you in a way a number, a
Makes
month.
sense. Yeah.
But look, we tend to run these processes efficiently, which means obviously a matter of month, which can be, from 2 to 6, I would say. I know it's quite a broader range, but just to give you an idea on obviously what does it mean?
Yes, no, that's perfect, honestly. Like 2 to 6 months on average, let's say. It depends on the exact specifics. But yeah, that definitely gives an idea.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Appreciate that. Awesome. And yeah, next question is also going to be tricky and difficult to answer. I'm also not sure if we can disclose that, but is there like I mean, if we talk app revenue, is there like a specific multiple that's kind of industry standard at this point? Because I remember like a few years ago, people were talking a lot about like 4 or 5x on yearly revenue, which is like the easiest calculation. But do you have a take on that, or how much of
Yeah.
your strategic advantage can you give up here? Yeah.
Look, I think talking about multiples, there is not an exact science, right? It's ultimately like the market plays a significant role in ultimately defining these multiples for acquisition purpose, right? Market means previous transactions over the past years and understanding obviously how this plays out in today's ecosystem. We really do not, in a way, disclose multiples, but not because we do not have ranges, but because there is so much specificities based on the acquisition that we do make, right? There is based hence on the revenues, the growth, the churn, all the metrics that I mentioned before. They can really result in different output and ultimately transactions value for the seller. What I can tell you obviously is that we have a highly skilled M&A and acquisition team that really their whole objective is to stay at the at the forefront of being competitive,
Yeah.
making sure obviously that we can keep, as we are proving on a monthly basis, almost acquiring businesses and making founders satisfied with their outcome. So it wouldn't be fair for me to give you a range just because again it really varies. But what I can tell you is that we take into account obviously again the key metrics, which are the ones I mentioned before, the market, so where the market is ultimately positioned in terms of multiples, and we want obviously again to make sure that it's a win-win exit for us as well as the sellers, right? And so far, I think it's proven to be the case.
Okay, yes, I think that's fair. And yeah, also maybe for viewers of this channel, like some people might just be starting their apps or getting into the development game. What kind of things would you pay attention to when founding an app? Would you pay attention to having like, let's say, on-track P&L sheets or building processes from the beginning? Or like, how can I make sure that my app in the future is going to get a good valuation?
Yeah, I do think that at the end, at the starting point, everything starts with the product. I don't think you need to over engineer and you're reporting P&L, etc., accounting, etc. If then you don't have a product that is actually
Yeah.
really loved by the merchants, right, and by the customer. So everything starts from the product. Make sure that you go out there with the products that merchants love. Make sure that through your support, and that's I think still remain a key part and most of the cases success indicator of an app. Your support is at the core of everything you do. Merchants want to get great support, and you leverage that support as a kind of feedback from merchants to get and
Yeah.
to build an even better products and ongoing feedback loops. This is really what most of the greatest app founder have proven to be doing very, very well. So everything still starts from product, and everything still starts from the structure that you manage to achieve through selling a great product and monetizing, obviously, out of it. Then I do think that once you reach a certain milestone, which probably something between, the 10K, 10, 15K of MRR. So optimally, you start seeing that basically the machine is well oiled and start bringing revenue generating. That's where I do think you should start paying more and more focus and attention on making sure that also the way you ultimately report, run your accounting, P&L, etc.,
Yeah.
is done at a very, very kind of a good at a good level. But I wouldn't over stress. I do think again I wouldn't over become over obsessed since literally over since the early days on that part. Obviously, then again, when you start reaching this 5, 10K of MRR, that becomes even a kind of a requirement, and that's where I think becoming hyper obsessed, like more careful around your cost, your P&L, and how you track it, how you report it, etc. Really start. And the good thing is that nowadays, and I'm sure again without disclosing specific names, but there are so many analytics also for app founders, analytics and platforms and tools that allow you founders to really keep track of obviously your growth, your revenues, as well as your cost in centralized way.
Yeah.
So I do think that these tools do represent a significant added value for founders.
Okay, amazing. So product market fit, first of all, good, having an awesome product, and then in terms of documentation, etc., it needs to be professional but not over-engineered. Is that what you're
I
saying?
do think so. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, amazing. Then one of my last questions for you, or we're almost getting close to the end, but one question I still have for you, like what steps are you taking after an acquisition? So I sold my app, you have all the code, you have all my processes at this point. What do you do now?
Sure. We do have two acquisition models, and I think that's also very important to figure out. And we love both, FYI. So the first acquisition model is that we managed to find very, very strong, longer term alignments with the founders who is kind of selling the business shops through to ShopServe. These type of alignments can take different shapes, FYI as well. So basically means it can take the shape of some level obviously of earnout of shop circle stock options obviously and alignments from that perspective, and different really joining shop circle in more senior leadership role. We can be together with the founders in a way creative as long as obviously the macro framework stays there with the founder. So and we do like that model a lot. So we have a few examples of we acquired product software with founders that then were generally, and they are generally excited about what we're building on Shop Circle and understood the bigger picture. So they realized that obviously they made their first exit, but there could be another opportunity to make a second, even larger exit as Shop Circle shareholder later on, obviously in a few years, obviously with the goals of Shop Circle building a sizable business, and that has been always the goal since, again, our first call, as you might recall, a few years back. So, long story short, we can find longer term alignment with founders who are keen keen to join, and they see the picture of what we are building here at JobCircle.
Yeah.
And that tends to be a model that we're nurturing and we are developing further, and ultimately we like it a lot. The second model is when, and equally interesting for us, obviously, we do have founders that after been working on the products for 4 or 5 years, all eggs into one basket, they want to move next. There is always a period of transition, which varies, but needs to be large, sufficient enough for JobCircle teams to take on the full apps, exactly like code, customer support, product, making sure that we have roadmaps for the foreseeable future, figure out, we run this process many times, and as you can imagine now. And then after that, again, as long as and when these processes are duly executed, because as I said before, we are not naive or not, we are quite humble from that perspective. And we do know how crucial our founders in general across any business, but even more, I would say, for Shopify apps in the success of their businesses and of their apps, right?
Yeah.
And we don't come in with the attitude of we know things more than you. Is literally the opposite. We come in with the attitude, we know the value that you've proven to build for merchants for many years. We have respect. We love this, and we want to ideally continue that journey as long as possible together with you. If that's not your plan, we want to make sure that we keep your legacy there for the next 10, 20 years, right? Because ultimately there is also product legacy, founders product legacy, right? You do want to make sure when you sell your business that the standing and the standards that you build your product and the reputation that the product has toward your merchants is there for the next generations, if we want to say. So that's something that we're really obsessed about, and we truly work to make sure that that does happen through basically plannings and really a special. And again, obviously, we do have a very specific process that we go through, which which ultimately entails a kind of an handover of products when it happens. In that case, an handover of the products to our top tier teams as well, split across, as I said, developers, obviously, product, customer support, marketing, and supporting functions.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. I like that a lot. Okay, and then with most of the deals, you also keep the founders involved to some capacity. I mean, it's their baby, so to speak. So
Yeah, and it's their baby. And look, founders, I do think that, again, founders are obviously thinking big. Most founders, they love thinking big. They love being part of big projects. They love being part of big missions. And
yeah.
I do think that JobCircle does fit all these boxes. And that's where I do think that in many cases we find a longer term alignments and we make it work.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, these have been my questions regarding app acquisitions in general. I think you provided a good overview. I don't know if anyone else could have given similar insights. I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't know if anyone. But we also had a few quick questions from the audience. These are easy to answer, probably. Are all your apps built in different programming languages, or are you only taking the ones in JavaScript, for example? Because you also have the developer teams. Like, yeah, maybe quick
Yeah,
answer.
we absolutely, that's an easy one. Obviously, we, by being very acquisitive, obviously, we cannot think, we couldn't be too narrow in just acquiring apps written in a specific tech stack, right? And code.
Yeah.
So, long story short, no, we buy products across written in different languages, predominantly Java, PHP, and Ruby on Rails, being probably covering, I must say, probably 60, 70% of every apps built in the app space. Maybe, Jan, you can, based on your obviously long experience and being a developer, you might confirm that part as well. But basically, we cover most of the use cases, and we do have functional teams, obviously, with a specific knowledge and language knowledge that are supporting specific apps. We have a fully global team, and obviously that can cover again different tech stack and different languages. So we are not too picky as long as they fall more or less in usual, I would say, industry standard programming languages. They're written in industry standard programming languages. We are definitely open and happy to understand.
Yes. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I think a a lot of apps are still built in PHP and Ruby on Rails, for example, but I think most of the new apps are mostly written in JavaScript at this point. But I
Correct.
mean, since you're also acquiring like successful apps, established apps, it does make sense that a lot of your apps are still written or also written in those languages.
And ultimately,
Um,
Shopify framework
yes,
does help a lot, try to really
exactly.
make
Yeah.
sure that the way they're written and in particular on the front end, obviously the way that they are built is kind of consistent. So ultimately, we
Yes.
have developers, needless to say, that are very, very specialized and specialist in the Shopify with the Shopify framework.
Yes, yeah, that makes sense. And then in terms of developer teams, this was also a question. Is it like that? I mean, it kind of makes sense that you have like small teams dedicated to a few
Yeah.
apps, I have to
Yeah.
imagine, right? And then it's
Right.
like,
So
okay,
in
got it.
most of
Yeah.
the cases, that works like that, right? Every single app does have their product managers, product owner, product managers taking care of ultimately like, um, the roadmap and making sure that is a bit of the glue of the
Yep.
overall team. And then we have developers allocated to the specific app. Needless to say that it requires a level of specialization and code understanding that you don't get it if you are bounced back across 10 different products. So yes,
Yeah,
we
makes
do
sense.
allocate developers to specific app.
Yeah, that makes sense. It also takes time to onboard people, and if they're written in
Correct.
different languages, I mean, it's almost impossible to have them share.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and then yeah, also interesting question for the audience when hiring developers, because I mean, your company is interesting. Some of you, some might be
We
interested
have
in hiring.
openings, yeah, and we do
Yes.
have two openings. One is a PHP exactly developer, and one for a Ruby developer. So yes, check it out on our Shop Circle Career website. Yeah.
Amazing. And what kind of qualities do you look for? I mean, obviously, okay, experience coding wise, but also some soft skills you're looking for particularly, or like what does a developer need to bring?
Yeah, 100%. I do like, and that might be a bit controversial, I don't know, but I do like developers who have some level of entrepreneurial mindset and spirit, right? Obviously, I have been working for many years with developers, and I do love and do like when obviously developers that love to really get stuck and get to the root cause and deep understanding of the code, of the product, etc. That's important. But I do think, and I also do love developers that. In particular, when they have to be onboarded on the product. So, or when the sorry for my French, but the like the challenges arise. Well, I put it very very in a diplomatic way. They're not scared in ultimately like take more ownership, and it could also entail, in some example, jumping on some merchant's call, in really understanding the causes, in being flexible, in be involved in product roadmap definitions, providing very much their feedback, feeling entrepreneurs and feeling partially co-owners of the product.
Yeah.
Again,
Okay.
I don't think that that does exclude, being this code specialist and really being able of going very deep on code understanding. But I do like the feeling, and because that's really something that we try to push a lot at Shop Circle of feeling co-ownership of the products. And in order to be co-owner, you need to act a bit of as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and you cannot be in a way scared to get your hand dirty. That doesn't mean it needs to be the usual ways of working, but when things happen, I think I want someone who can tackle in and be really feeling the ownership of it. That to me is a characteristics that I like a lot, and that also links to the second part that obviously, as you said, and as we discussed before, we do like and we do allocate developers to a specific product. That's the only way in which it gets that for the onboarding center. But we had many instances, obviously, that we had to move developers, and sometimes it's also a great opportunity for the developers to develop other skill set to other products, right? And to basically support other apps in the family. Again, I do love when I'm working with developers that do tackle these challenges and they are excited, even not scared. They're excited to move to a new project. They're excited to move to a new apps,
Yeah.
and obviously doing things properly from an onboarding and an offboarding perspective. But that type of really soft skill that I do value.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so code experience, then open-minded and entrepreneurial mindset, kind of.
Yeah,
Interesting that you say that because I would say that's even the same in the Shopify freelancing space. The ones that do have
100%.
this entrepreneurial understanding, they usually tend to do better in the consulting role of being a freelancer. But of course, there are also like full-on technical roles where you only need to like where you almost need to be a small nerd. I mean, not a bad thing, but in a good sense. But yeah, it depends on the role exactly as you described it. Okay, Jan, I think these have actually been all my questions, and we've also come a super long way already. But do you have anything else that you would like to promote or say or give a shout out or, I don't know, greet someone?
First of all, Ian, this was really fun, and I think thank you so much for having me, and congratulations again for running this podcast so successful for a long time. And I think you're doing something very very helpful for the Shopify ecosystem and really upskilling the overall ecosystem and giving opportunities again to great chaps to learn about the Shopify space. So you're doing something good for the ecosystem. Second of all, as I mentioned already among the lines before, we are growing, we are hiring, and we are, I do think, one of the most exciting company in the Shopify space that any developers, product managers, marketeer can work in. So we have a few openings I mentioned before, specifically on that space in the developer focus as one PHP developer opening and one Ruby on Rails developer opening. Please check it out. Please don't hesitate to apply, and of course, we will take it. We take a look, and hopefully, we will. Some of the listener of this podcast will also join the company and Shop Circle at some point in the future. That would be quite a good output of this conversation. Other than that, nothing. Like, again, we are very very motivated for the next few years, and we'll keep playing our part in really nurturing and growing the Shopify ecosystem, both in offering tier one products to our merchants, as well as giving great opportunities for Shopify and like chaps to join the organization and giving them opportunity to grow and learn.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing these opportunities also. And then I already look forward to the update episode in a couple of years.
I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yes, nice. And yeah, we've covered a lot. We've covered Shop Circle, we've covered app acquisitions, then the tech stack, etc. So I really appreciate you giving all these insights, and thanks so much for taking the time. I highly respect it. And yeah, have an awesome day and see you around.
Thank you so much. Ciao. Thank you.